Welcome to the No Name Podcast. You got us here again. We're joining you for our episode 21, which we had told you guys we're going to be talking about church finances. So again, make sure you're hitting the subscribe and like button. Make sure you're passing it along. And again, keep putting questions in the comments and, suggestions and stuff like that. We did get we got a couple of comments this last one. Mm-hmm. And, look, we're open to all types of feedback. Doesn't mean we're going to agree with all of it. That's kind of the whole point of this podcast, is to have discussion, to generate discussion, whether you agree or disagree. And hopefully this is generating discussions at home with other Christians or just other people in your life that you're having those conversations with. One of the hard things is we do try to limit it to about an hour and a half, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So we're not always going to be able to touch in depth into conversation, to topics. So if we miss a subject or, hey, I wish you guys would touch on this more, then go ahead.
Let us know.
Let us know. Put it in the comments and we'll come back to it. Other pieces like, we're going to have more women on in the future. We welcome all types of guests to come on to have the conversation. Definitely. Again, one of the things I think the body of Christ has to understand is, like, we have our foundational beliefs, but it's okay to disagree on some other things. And it's okay that we need to see things and have that discussions, because sometimes when we're not having those discussions, then those get harbored inside, those stay inside. And again, in this life, we have to learn how to agree to disagree sometimes. Mm-hmm. We all have to answer to God. We all have to deal with him at the end of the day. And so it's really on the relationship with God and going from there. So again, we'll touch on more subjects. Again, we're going to have more people coming on. So definitely recommend you guys to keep putting comments in there, keep asking questions, and we'll see where we go from there. So one of the topics that we have been wanting to talk about, because it's very taboo in church, or maybe in some churches, not in all churches. One of the things, and churches get a bad name for this because of all different things that have happened throughout time in history, is church finances. And that goes into a lot of different things, tithes and offerings, pledges, things of that sort. And so we wanted to have a conversation about that, because one of the things that I think sometimes gets misunderstood here, we definitely try not to, I think we had made a conscious effort not to talk too much about it or preach on it, because we didn't want to be seen as people that were pushing it so much. But I think in some aspects, we've probably gone to a place where sometimes people don't understand the need. Like we're definitely a church that lives based on the budget. Like we have a very strict budget, which at most times we're probably in the red, by the grace of God that we come in and survive each year. But I think that's one of the things that I think sometimes people don't understand. It's okay, I pay 10%. Oh, I give my offering, and then it's okay. So the church should be completely fine. And there's still a confusion of offering and tithing, and then like, what do you do with different things? And again, we're not going to always be right on everything, and we're going to have different opinions on it, but we're going to have that discussion. So I guess, where do we want to head first with church finances?
I don't know, man. I mean, I got my opinion of church finances and what I initially thought. I mean, everybody got that. You giving money to the church, you're giving it to the pastor. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing people think. Yeah, and they think, oh, well, no, I ain't giving that much because I'm not trying to support the pastor to drive a new car. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was what I thought. I'm just when it comes to church finances, but now I know and see that it's much different now. Especially when you have the kind of church that we have when we do outreach as such, and man. I mean, and churches don't just run on air. I mean, there's bills to be paid. If we own this, we had to pay taxes on it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know, but
we won't pay property taxes because we're non-exempt. But I mean, you still have to pay all the other bills, right?
Or what other bills? Like,
we're not non-exempt to electricity, water.
Right.
All the trash, the day-to-day stuff, like the supplies that go into both the children's church and the church. Mm-hmm. And then like funding the different things, like whereas we're needing sometimes, which sometimes we're able to help from church funds, and sometimes it's the ministries having to raise it, whether it's new equipment for the church or what,
training,
and then we have a couple people. Then we have people that are full time, not a lot of them, like pastors full time, and so we should be paying part of his salary, which I don't know if we always every month actually pay his salary. It's just, and so that's kind of, and people are like, well, what do you pay for that? Because it's not just the services on Sunday, it's the counseling, it's all the things which we don't typically,
funeral services,
we don't charge
marriages,
things, and so
right.
But I think when we get into church financing, I think let's not just get caught on our church, but the overall of giving. I think that's a concept that's hard for Christians sometimes to understand is giving. And I think there's just been misconceptions about it and misunderstandings about it. So if a new Christian was coming, or even a seasoned Christian, says, okay, how much should I give? What would be y'all's answer?
How much should they give?
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that they should give their 10%.
Yeah, that's what.
More or whatever they feel, but to me, it's 10% or more. Because
so how can we make somebody understand that and feel comfortable with? Because if somebody who is new to the church and they got some bills due or something like that, like the mentality, you know what I'm saying? Like how do you help somebody to?
Well, let's come to the understanding first of so. When we talk, there's two different things, right? There's tithes and then there's offerings. Right. And so tithes has been something that's been debated throughout church existence. Right. So when you say the 10%, you're going towards tithes, right?
Yeah.
Which there's
tithes, time. You can 10%. You can tithe your time if you want. You can tithe. I mean,
well, and I think that's a good concept right there. So when we need to start talking about like tithing, like let's take tithing for the first piece, right? Tithing itself means 10%. That's what that means. That's where they get the 10% from. Tithing means a tenth. And a lot of that's based in the Old Testament, which some argue, well, we live in the New Testament under the covenant of Christ. So do we truly need to be giving 10%? And this can become a very big biblical debate where people hang their salvation on whether they should be tithing or not.
Yeah.
But the Old Testament and the New Testament go hand in hand. You can't, just because, Christ came and made the New Testament and then we live in the future doesn't mean, okay, now that we're in the New Testament, okay, you give up the Old Testament. No, they go hand in hand, You still got to follow what's in the Old Testament.
But do you follow it to the letter?
Right, because there's some stuff in the Old Testament.
But do you follow it to the letter of the law of the Old Testament?
Jesus said to follow the law.
But which law?
I'm talking of all the law. Any law. It's like even us. We live here in America. There's laws here.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to follow those laws.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I'm under grace, I can drive on a 100 miles because I'm under the grace. No, you're not. You're going to get a ticket because the law says you're supposed to drive 35 miles an hour.
Right.
Agreed.
You see? Right. If the law says you got to pay your taxes.
Yeah.
If you don't pay your taxes, guess what?
Yeah.
They're going to come after you.
Yeah.
The law says that if you have a house, you got a mortgage, you got to pay it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, God's going to take care of me. God will pay it. No, you're going to get behind and guess what? You're going to be homeless.
But I think when we look at it, the only reason I say that because this is an argument that people have brought up before. And that's why I say because when you say then you have to follow all the laws, there's a lot of laws in Leviticus that
I was just going to bring that up. Yep.
Like you're not supposed to eat certain meats. You're not supposed to
dishes,
do,
like shrimps and squid because they eat waste and
so that's typically where someone would, if they're arguing that counterpoint, they're gonna say, okay, so then do I need to follow all those same laws? Like now that I sin, do I need to go and sacrifice an animal?
I don't think so.
No, because Jesus is the sacrifice of all sacrifices.
But if the law's still there,
God forgives you. That's why you come to Christ and ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
So okay, so
if you break a law,
I kind of see
conviction hits you. Guess what?
Yeah.
You gotta ask Christ to forgive you.
I agree.
And the blood of Christ, that's your sacrifice that you bring to the altar.
Yeah.
And that's why. Look, when I preach, it's like anything. when I preach, I'm not trying to force the people to believe what I believe.
Yep.
When I preach, I'm preaching what I believe God's telling me, what the Bible tells me.
Yeah.
Then once I deliver that message, it's up to every individual what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
You see, live by their convictions, not by my convictions, by their convictions.
Well, and that's where we're getting into this conversation about. That's where we're getting into this conversation about tithing.
Right.
But again, in this conversation of tithing, I think so. So here's the thing. I guess here's what it boiled down to. If you don't tithe, does that keep you out of heaven?
It won't keep you out of heaven, but I believe there's a curse upon your life because it's in the Bible.
No.
You know.
Well, so let me ask a question. Okay, so we know tithing is in the Old Testament, right? But where can we find it in the New Testament? Like specifically 10%.
I don't believe it ever calls out exactly 10%, but Christ, see, that's one of the other arguments that people talk about is that nowhere in the New Testament does it say actual 10%.
Exactly.
And typically when people go to the 10%, they're going to the book of Malachi.
Right.
I think here's the thing. When you deal with offerings and tithes,
it should come from your heart.
It should come from the heart, and it should come with a relationship with God. And that's why I think sometimes this argument is mute, because here's my bigger thing with it. And it's something that we've talked about before. I think because we sometimes get lazy with our relationship with God, instead of us going to God and allowing God to put into our heart what we're supposed to be giving, the tithes and stuff, we'd rather someone tell us. And so churches many years ago said, you know what, 10% sounds right.
Yeah.
So let's do 10%.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's good and bad because you gave someone a minimum, but then you also gave someone a limit. You
capped them.
Because people are like, okay, well, they told me I only got to give 10%.
I think there was an argument in the New Testament when they came to Jesus and asked about the giving. And when Jesus said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. You know, and that's where you got to come, okay. Our Caesar is we live in the United States.
Yep.
Then we live in Texas. Our Caesar is our government. You see, they tell us how much to give. They tell us how much to pay.
Yep.
You know, and I believe that you gotta give to God what you believe, because look, this is me.
Yeah.
God has done a lot in my life.
Yep.
I believe He deserves more than 10%. I believe that God deserves.
I think that's it, man.
You know,
I think that's the key.
Well, you know, and I think that's the agreement. I mean, we're in agreement.
Yeah. And I understand about how people, you know, always want to fight because they don't want to give.
Yeah.
But wherever you go, you got to pay something. You know, you go to the bar, guess what? They're going to charge you taxes for the drinks that you're drinking. They're going to, some charge you when you go in.
Well, here,
you know,
but here's the difference between that and the church. At least our church, we're not gonna charge you to attend.
Right.
Like,
but that's what I mean. You're willing to pay, you know, to indulge yourself.
Yeah.
In whatever it is, to go to a movie.
But I think that goes back
and all that.
But I think that goes to the bigger concept that we're talking about. It's that if you truly have that relationship with God and you love God,
really give out of your heart,
and then you become part of the community, then you give out of your heart.
Right. That's why look, since I've been a pastor, I really haven't really preached that much on tithe.
Yeah,
I do preach. I'm not one to focus a lot. And I really don't check the people that are giving or not. And even sometimes I don't even check our leadership.
Yeah.
Because I believe that, you know what, you give out of your conviction.
Yep.
You got to give to that what belongs to God, what belongs to the church, you know, so the church can support itself and do what it does. Yep. Now, if you don't, I do believe there's a curse upon your life. Yep. You know, you're not going to be blessed. Yep. Because you know what? You're holding back what belongs to God. Yeah. You know, and whatever that you want to put 10%, 20%, 30% or whatever, you know. Now, this is what I believe too. Most of us, when we came to the Lord, and most of our people, most of them, you know what? They were struggling. They were on drugs. Their marriage was broken, whatever. And you know what? We tend to make promises to God. Yeah. We tend to make pledges to God. We tend to tell the Lord, you know, oh Lord, if you take me out of debt, or you pay me, you give me for this, I'll give you I'll give you an abundance. I'll give you more than my 10%. I'll give you this. You're making a promise to God.
Yeah.
Not to the church.
Yep.
To God.
Well, and I think that's why sometimes here's the thing. I think that's where the focus has to come into when we talk tithing and offering. Sometimes the focus gets so much caught up on money and 10%, and it really has to be focused on
everything.
Everything, and also the relationship with God. Because here's the thing, and I had a scripture that I was going to read. It actually comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6-7, and this is where we get the cheerful giver. But if you listen to it, it says, "But this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountiful will also reap bountiful." Now, most people stop there and say, "Okay, I got to sow a lot, so I get a lot." But it got to go further than that. It says, "So let each one give as he purpose in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver." So that
a necessity.
So let each one give as he purpose in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity.
Yeah.
For God loves a cheerful giver. And here's the piece that it has to be at. When you're giving to your heart, that means you had to have a relationship with God and have that in you. Because naturally, as human beings, we're selfish people. Like, we may give to charity and stuff like that, but a lot of times, if we really drill into a lot of things, we give to feel better. We give to feel part of society, but to truly give from the heart means not to expect anything in return, that you're giving it because you're grateful. And I think that's one of the big things that sometimes gets missed in talking about this is I truly believe that if people have a real relationship with God and they love God, it's not a matter of 10% or 20 or tithes and offering or this or that. It's, I'm going to give to support. I'm going to give all of, not just my money, but my time, my effort, all of it to God. And that's a concept that I think's been from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know what it is about us in the Mexican culture, churches, where we struggle. You look at most of our churches on the west side, south side, here in San Antonio, I'm talking about. And our buildings are, some of them are down and all beat up and all that, and we struggle. And, I know I talk a lot about the north side, about their money and all that. But one thing I do give them is that they're givers. Yeah. They believe in their cause over there. They believe in what they're doing. Whatever the preacher, their pastor is telling them, what the vision is, and all that. And some of them, because they have a good relationship with God, they love to give. Yeah. It's there's a story in the Bible where I think there was an old widow, a lady, and a man. That I think it was a man that he was there saying, "Oh, here, look what I'm gonna give. Look how much I'm gonna give." And he gives, and the poor lady gives everything she had, which wasn't that much. And Jesus asked, "Who's the one that gave the most?" And everybody thought it was the one that was there promoting what he was giving. And he says, "No, that widow lady or the old lady, whatever they call in the Bible, because she gave from her heart." You see, and a lot of times, look, I wasn't a drunk. I drank a little bit because I didn't like drunks. That's why I chose drugs, because drunks were necios.
You chose drugs.
Yes. You chose that because you know what? I thought that was better than being a drunk, because drunks they get silly or necio, whatever. They talked a lot and all that. But and I come from a family that's most of all, they're drunks. A lot of drunks, a bunch of them.
Okay.
I've got some good drunks, bad drunks in my family and all that. But one thing that I always saw in drunks, there was always one person that used to always like to hang around, family member or friend, that they would go and they knew there was going to be a lot of liquor, a lot of beer and all that. Okay. And they would drink and all that. And most of the time, everybody was pitching in. But there would always be one individual that never liked to pitch in, never liked to buy anything. And the moment it was his turn, Guess what? He make an excuse to leave, or when he knew it was his turn, he was split because he didn't want to put in.
Yeah.
But he enjoyed, everybody else. And I believe there's a lot of people like that in church.
Okay.
They love to come and I'm not saying that we're charging them for everything.
No.
But you know what? Like me, I'm thankful for God.
I
The
think
moment
we
I
all
wake
are.
up, I'm thankful that He woke me up. I'm thankful for the day He gave me. It might be a day of struggling. It might be a hard day or a good day, whatever. But I'm thankful.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for what God has blessed me with. It might not be the abundance I want,
Yeah.
but it is what I need. So whenever I can give to God, I'm grateful to give to God.
Yeah. So you're talking. So let me.
Yeah.
I gotta say that
Yes.
you said the north side, like, and people give. I just think it's because there's rich people over there. That's what I think. I mean, and maybe there are some people who really want to give, but I think the rich people. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a bunch of rich people over there.
But you know why sometimes they're rich? Because they're givers, and God blesses them.
So they just keep
And
giving.
most people here on our side of town, we're where we're at because you know what? We don't trust God.
Okay, I can see that.
So we're gonna be cursed with a curse.
So that's
And
gonna
that's
lead
why
me into
people struggle.
into my question here, which is I got on my phone, which I'm gonna ask you.
go ahead, because-
Prosperity preaching.
Yeah, so that's where I think you have to be careful with that, because then that's starting to lean towards prosperity preaching, which I don't believe in. I don't believe because you give, you're automatically gonna get a return.
No.
And again, there's a balance of it.
Yeah.
It says in there, what you sow, you shall reap. And I think you have to be careful, like the prosperity preaching. And not saying that that's what you're teaching. I know that's not what you're teaching.
No,
but what I'm saying is, with prosperity teaching, the fundamental of it is that if you give, you will automatically receive.
Yeah.
And the more you give, the more you receive. But like the scripture we just read, I was saying, like, most people stop at that beginning. But you have to look at it. It says, God delights a cheerful giver. Do you understand? Like, if you give grudgingly, doesn't matter if you're getting back, you're giving it in the wrong aspect.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that people have to understand is God doesn't measure it by God. I believe this way. When God's talking about what you sow, you shall reap, He doesn't measure it by the way we measure it. Because like you said, there's people with higher incomes in other areas. He's measuring it the way He talked about, like the example you gave right now, where it was, she gave of the heart and of what she could. Where that other guy, because you have to remember, look, in the New Testament, when the churches started, there's that family that's there, that everyone's selling their property and giving it away. And this one couple says, I'm gonna, we've sold our property, here's the money, and they're showing it all off. But they actually kept half of it. And then Peter and them God reveals it to them.
Y'all did.
And the ground swallows them. But one of the things that you look at it, if you read it, it wasn't that they were holding it. It was that they were going and saying they were going to give all of this. So either they already had a commitment with God in their heart, where them and God talked and they said, okay, this is what I committed to do. But once they saw it, their hearts changed and said, no, we're not going to do that. Because if they had told God, we're going to sell it and we're going to give half, that's what we feel in our hearts. We've come to the determination we're going to give half. That's what we feel God's telling us. God wouldn't have done what He did. But the reason He did that is because there was already some kind of commitment between them and God that they were going to give everything, and they were boasting, and then they lied about it. Like, I even think if they had just come back and said, you know what, we re-looked at everything and we know we said this, but we're only, and they didn't lie about it, there may have been a different thing on it.
And that's what I mean. They when you make a promise to God, a pledge, whatever it is, 10%, 20%, whatever you feel that belongs to God, and you tell God that you're going to give it to Him because whatever reason you're giving it, and then you don't do it, you're going to be cursed. And you're right. I don't believe that when you give, okay, Lord, I'm going to give you 5, so that means you're going to give me 10. If I give you 20, you're going to give me 40. No, it doesn't work that way. It can be that God will bless your health,
Yeah.
It can be that God will bless your house where, you know what, nothing breaks, or you know, you have food on your table.
Food. Yep, I was just
You
about to
know,
say, he
it
bless
can
you with
be
some
that.
food.
You know, it's not always necessarily
Always
going to be
money.
money wise.
Yeah.
That's what
and
everybody
and
think.
it can be money wise too.
Yeah.
You know, but it depends. You know, there's a scripture here that says, 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, each one must give as he decided. And I think that's the one you read.
Yeah, I just read.
In his heart. It's a different version. He said, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion. For God loves a cheerful giver. You see? Now, I believe that God comes and deals with everybody. Every Christian that has a good relationship with God,
Yep.
a solid relationship with God, and God tells them what is their responsibility to give to the church, to give back to Him.
Yep.
You know, and you know, because He has blessed them.
Yep.
You know, and I believe that, you know, and we all make the promise. Okay, Lord, I know that I'm going to give you my 10%. We believe in our church 10% or more. You know, whatever it is, that's what I believe. You know, it's always, and it can be more. You know, but I've told people, hey, if you don't can give your 10, start with 5. Start with whatever you feel that you can give, so God can bless your life. You know, you know, because and then I believe it's in the conviction of every individual that God has to deal with them and how much to give. You know, it's not my job. You know, I'm not going to be going checking around, oh, how much do you give, how much not? You know, but I've seen how when people give and they give from the heart and they trust in the Lord, how God has blessed them, you know. And like I said, not only money-wise, I've seen them, and you know what? I've seen too where people have promised things to God, and then they don't go through it. Yeah. And I've seen what has happened in their lives too.
Yeah.
You know.
And sometimes because the thing is, the only reason I'm cautious about that is just because, if you look at Job was a giver. He was committed to God, and God still took everything away from him. Now that was a matter of a testing and stuff, but still that can happen at times. So you have to, people have to be careful that when they're doing this, doesn't mean that you're not going to go through bad times. Doesn't mean you're not going to have trials. You're not going to have tribulations. You're not going to have things. But I think part of when it comes to giving and tithing, and then we'll get in, because I want to get a little more into church finances. I think it's all about the mindset. And that's really the core thing here is people have to read their Bibles and get to the mindset. Because if you go all the way back to Genesis, the whole thing with Cain and Abel was they were both giving to God. And the Bible doesn't clearly say why God rejected Cain's gift and accepted Abel's, but for the most part, it had to do with the heart. It had to do with something of what they were giving.
Yeah, because he probably could have accepted both.
Yeah,
you know, right.
And here's the thing that it comes down to: God was asking them to give back of something they gave, and that's sometimes the concept we miss. We think our money, our talent, and all these things are ours, yet everything God has done on this earth was given to us. So when we're giving back to God, we're giving him something that he gave us. Hence why if it's 10, 20, 30, 50, actually 100% of it is his, because without him, we wouldn't have air, we wouldn't have water, we wouldn't have the gravity that keeps us on here, we wouldn't be on the axle that our world travels on. We wouldn't have the jobs, the technology, the things that we have. All of that comes from him. And when you start thinking that way, that all my stuff comes because of God. And then I think too, the second thing when it comes to giving, it's about faith. You see, when you're willing to give, it's because you're trusting that God's going to take care of everything. Now, it's not that you give irresponsibly. I think God gives us common sense to be logical about what we're doing. But God's not, when you go and you talk to God and God puts something in your heart to give, he's not going to give you something that you can't deliver on, that he's not going to do. That's where faith comes in. You know, if God's telling you, okay, do this, it's because he knows. And but that's the problem. A lot of people, they're not going to God and having that conversation with him on giving. What they want is someone to tell them, this is how much you need to give. This is how much, because you know why? It's easier to blame at that point. Then you say, well, if things aren't going well, you told me to give that amount, or I was supposed to give it. And it's not having that relationship with God and giving it to him and building it. Because then when you have that relationship with him, he helps you understand that everything we have is because of him.
Yeah, like on Sundays, that's why when we start like in some of our services and we give tithes and offerings, I tell people like, man, he could take all your money right now if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
He can easily do that, and I know that you are exactly right, man. Everything is already just giving it back, man. And it's got to come from that place, though.
Yeah,
it's got to, man.
And I think part of it has to be going beyond just money. I think sometimes that's where people get caught up on it.
That's going back to
10%
the Old Testament and New Testament. This is the what I wanted to say, and I couldn't get the words. I forgot them. I don't know, it's old age or what, but I'm not that old. You see, we're always trying to divide the old and the new. We always try to say, okay, Jesus died, and so now we're living in the new, we should live in the new era and all that. But no, they both come in hand in hand. The Old Testament is a picture of the New Testament, and the Old and the New Testament is a picture of what we're living now, you see? So we need both of them, Yeah, there's a lot of things in the Old Testament that the Jews put in there, and, that they themselves put in, a lot of the laws and all that. That's why when Moses went up and talked to God and all that, that's why God gave him the 10 Commandments, because they were making so many, laws, and God made it simple for us in a lot of the things.
Yeah, I don't
and that's what I mean. Look, I've had a lot of people come to our church and they start giving their tithes, their 10% and all that, and whatever they want to give. Then all of a sudden they say, well, I'm not going to give no more because I found out that it's not in the New Testament. So I'm going to stop giving, because you know what? I can't find it there.
Stop giving.
And the Bible, in the New Testament doesn't say to stop. It never said for you not to bless God.
And that's where I think, look, I agree, the Old Testament and New Testament go hand in hand, but I think that's the issue. When we get focused on one thing of tithe and 10%, then you go into an endless loop of arguments of, is it this, is it that? Here's what, for me, the way I look at it, is if you look at the New Testament, what the first church actually did is that all those who put their trust in Christ, so there were some who didn't. All those who put their trust in Christ were together and shared what they owned. As anyone had need, they sold what they owned and shared with everyone. So they gave more than 10%. Right. They gave everything. Yeah. And that's where I'm saying, when we get stuck in the argument of the 10%, the Old Testament, the New Testament, we're missing the bigger concept. Yeah. The bigger concept is really about having that relationship with God. And if you're truly grateful, then you're giving where the needs are at, right? So now moving into church finances, the reason that we go into tithes and offering, it's not just to pay the pastor's salary. It's not just to pay for this or that. It goes into a lot of things. Yes, we're not in the building for our church, but we're still using electricity. We're still using a lot of things. We go and we clean the restrooms after every use so that people feel safe. We do all these other items. We have these chairs that we're going to start putting outside. We have all these different things, right? And we forget about that. And then the church when we did have service inside, there's the AC running, there's the fans, there's the things, the children's church, the water, the things like that. So you're supporting.
The children's church is open now. So the air conditioning is running in there.
So, but the way you have to look at it is you're supporting the ministry so that people can be there and they can receive, so that you can receive, so that we're all putting it together. So we're coming for fellowship so that the kids can have stuff to receive. Like right now we're raising money for the swing set. And it's not just about, our kids, your kids. It's so any kid can go and have fun and play on the swing set. And I believe that if you're a church member of whatever church, not just our church, any church member, if you're a church member there and you believe in what they're doing,
your church, what they're doing,
and you're a member there, then you should help support it, because that's what launches out the different ministries. That's what launches out the ideas and the stuff like that. And honestly, like, that's one of my things I've always come back to. Like, if the people don't want to support it, God will send people. Or we need to change our mission and see where's our heart at, right? But I always believe that if our heart is right, our heart's aligned, God begins to provide one way or the other. He opens up doors, he makes ways. But I do think that as members, like, look at what that first church, they all saw the need. You know, and that's one of the things we close our eyes to the need. Sometimes we're looking over there and we're like, man, there's only the same person in the children's church. There's a need there for helpers, but no one's saying, I'll help. You know, we have just enough ushers or usherettes or whatever it may be. No one's saying, oh, I see the need there, let me go help.
Yeah.
You see, I believe those are ministries, but I believe it goes beyond that. Like, I believe as a church body, we should be supporting, because those ministries are to support others who are coming in, new people, to help guide them, to direct them, to have, just so that they can focus on the service, so that they can, you know, that's a lot of the reasons why when we had the ushers, it was so people are inside, they can feel comfortable praising and worshiping God and not worrying about their car getting broken into, not worrying about something happening. Now we're outside in the cars and stuff, but still the ushers are there parking and making sure, you know, keeping an eye out. And that's one of the things that sometimes we miss, in that this is to support things as we start launching other ministries. You know, as much as I would love to say things are free, like when we do the block party, it's not free. We're going out, we're ministering, we're giving away, we're doing things. And I think that's where people, they have to support the ministry and look at it. And I truly believe God opens up the hearts and he's going to make a way. But I believe that if we're part of it, like, and again, it goes beyond the money. It's about the time, the volunteering, you know, and God's going to give you other ministries. Like, God's going to show you some needs outside of the church. There may be a need for homeless outside the church. And you're saying, hey, I feel like there's this need here, this and that. I'm supporting my church, but I'm going beyond this, and I'm going to start this ministry to help the homeless. And guess what? That's going to take money.
Yeah.
That's going to take offering. That's going to take stuff to do. Yeah. That's going to take your time, your commitment to think through the ideas, to get the permits, to do all those things. And I just think sometimes people miss that when we're talking about church finances and stuff.
So what would you give somebody, like, just to give them, like, say, I mean, even the like you said, a new Christian, like we're saying with tithing, like what words of encouragement could you give, you know, somebody to, you know, tell them, like just short and simple?
You know, like I said,
you know what I mean?
In the scripture that I read, it's a more modern Bible, and it said, "Give as you have decided in your heart," you know, and then it says, "Not reluctant and not compulsion," you know, and like I said, I believe, because I know in my life when I got saved, see, one of the things I remember I told the Lord, the first promise I made to the Lord, if you change my life. If you take away my drug addiction, you take away my everything that I've done and all that, if you change my life completely, I will do anything for you. You see, I was making a promise to the Lord. And guess what? The Lord came through and changed my life. So now guess what God expects from me? To fulfill the promise. You see? Now he didn't force me. It came out of me to say what I said, you know? And because I'm grateful through all my life that I've decided to do what I do, you know what? That's why I'm still here doing what I'm doing, because I made a promise to the Lord. Yeah, there's times of discouragement. You know, it's been hard, especially because you know what? I know that I can go and get a full-time job or do whatever and make money and live more comfortable than what I'm living. But you know what? Throughout the time that I've been here, God has blessed my life. As long as I've done his work, as long as I do, and I trust in him,
see,
you know,
that's it.
You know, God fulfills, you know, he takes care of me. He blesses me, you know.
But I think,
and you know, and even times, there've been times that, man, sometimes, you know, we're struggling in the church and like any ordinary Christian, any ordinary person, you start complaining to the Lord. then all of a sudden God comes through.
Yeah.
God uses somebody to bless the church.
Oh man, we've all seen that.
And it's sad because if you believe in what we're doing, if you believe in the vision, if you believe in the mission statement or whatever, and you believe that God is in the picture, you know what? You would be doing everything to help out what the mission is.
Well, I think that's
and all that.
Yeah, and I think that's the bigger thing when you're becoming a church member, right? So if you're a church member, you should be supporting that church. That's what it means to be a church member. And don't get me wrong, you're not getting a file, you're not getting. I mean, there's no application or anything like that. You're not getting a stamp on you. But like you said, if you're going to that church, you're supporting it and the ministries around it because of what's going on and what you see going on. And going further, the one thing I will say, I think this is where, like, and I know we've spoken about this before, and because I believe, like, you were talking about your conversion and that you promised God this thing, but I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your relationship with God started off with that, almost like a bargain. But God doesn't work in bargaining.
No.
But from that, your relationship grew into love. And so it's not so much that you're just also doing it to fulfill a promise. You now do it because of your love for God, whether you're getting the money or you're getting, you're living in the best financial situation.
Look, after God changed my life and everything, and I went through the home and all that, and, went back home, I started working.
Yeah.
I was working.
Yeah.
And I had a good job. I was working at the hospital. I was a surgeon at the hospital at Southwest General Hospital, and God was blessing me, and I was doing good. I was helping out the church at that time, and doing what I had to do. And I remember clearly in my life when God came and told me, "Remember the promise you made, Joe." I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Okay, now I want you to fulfill it." And like anything, it was hard.
Yeah.
Because I had my wife who I had to support, and all that, and God, and I didn't do it right away when He told me. I didn't right then and there. There was a struggle.
But I guess for me with that piece, but I think if it's just you fulfilling a promise, that's one thing. But I think it goes beyond that because you wouldn't even want to fulfill the promise if you didn't have a love for God.
Right. That's what.
Because if not, then you just made a deal.
Right.
You said salvation.
That's what I mean.
Salvation for this.
No. Yeah, but
I'm just trying to clarify.
Because all people, look, we're all schemers. We're all schemers in one way or another. We all try to make deals. One way or another. And we do it in life. We do it with our relationships. We do it with our kids. We do it with anything. And we try to do it with God too.
Yeah.
And you're right. I'm not saying that because He made the promise. No, because once He changed, once I fell in love with God, it was easy to do what I do. That's why I always say, what I do for God is not because I'm obligated. What I do for God because I love God.
Mm-hmm.
When I come to church, it's not because I'm obligated to come to church.
Because
I love to come to church. I love to be here. And that's why I've told people, if it's a burden to come to church, don't come.
Don't come.
Yeah.
Don't come.
Right now we're outside. There's people that it's too hot. They complain about the gas and all that. You know what? If you can't sacrifice because if you don't love God enough to sacrifice for that, then don't come.
Yeah.
But it's sad for me because, I drive around the city and I see people sacrificing for themselves, for their pleasures outside in the heat. I've seen them for their kids out there in the heat where it's hot. They're playing soccer. They're playing football. They're playing baseball. And let me tell you, and all those things, they cost money nowadays. Uniforms, taking them here, taking them there, and they do it because they love their kids. and they're willing to be out there with an umbrella and all that, drinking and all that.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong.
Okay.
I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, if you can do that for your kids, because you enjoy to see your kids, you want your kids to get involved in all that, why can't you give that to the Lord who's blessing you to give that to your kids?
Why do you think they can't?
Huh?
Why do you think they can't?
Because they don't have a relationship with God. Because they don't come to church. Look, why do we come to church?
Great question. Why?
Because we come to worship God. Mm-hmm. We come to have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. We come to show our love to God.
Fellowship.
So, you know what? Mm-hmm. We should be, when we come to church, we should be out there enjoying God's presence, enjoying the service, And I guarantee you that if you concentrate on God, you're not going to concentrate on nothing else. 2, we're using it as an evangelistic tool, to reach people, for people to see. People from the car wash stop, and they're seeing, and they're getting fed. They're getting
people over at Thayer's.
Yeah. People from Thayer's, people from the trailers, people that can listen all over.
Yep.
They're hearing the message. So what if they don't come to our church or not when they get saved and have a relationship with God? But that's our job.
Yeah.
That's in the Bible. Go ye and make disciples to reach the lost.
Yeah.
And the weird thing, where Jesus ministered most of his time? In the desert. Jesus was always in the desert.
Yeah.
And he was
people
walking
would follow
too.
them over there.
Yeah.
And he was walking.
And people would enjoy the presence of God. Now they had some complainers, but when you're grateful to God and you have a great relationship with God, nothing should bother you.
Yeah.
And
I think we'll actually have a future podcast on why we do the services outside, because there's actually another pastor that's actually doing a similar thing, and he actually believes more churches should be doing that, which I think is a good idea. And we'll kind of talk into that some more. I think so. In regards to giving and church finances, I mean, that's one of the things I think. One of the things we've tried to do here in the last few years is be more open on the.
Can I say what?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Look, I'm not trying to. No. I just want people to understand. I'm not trying to be mean. Like, don't come to church.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be mean.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think
I'm
people would take it like that. But
if it's a burden, if you're gonna, because this is what God told us to do. Even before the pandemic started, you were already thinking of starting to have services outside.
Yeah. We were having them outside once a month.
God already had a plan for us. It's not that we're scared to come inside. It's not that we fear and all that. And we haven't totally given up and coming inside. One day we might come. One day we might have service inside and outside. But it's because we felt that this is what God wants.
Yeah.
This is where God is leading the church.
I want to dive deeper into that on another podcast.
Right, but what I'm saying that because it goes back to the finances.
Yeah.
People are thinking about their gas. And people are thinking about oh man, the gas is expensive, and I need it for my work, and I needed to take my children here and there. And I gotta go to church, and if I'm in my car and I want air condition, I'm gonna keep it on for a whole hour, and I'm gonna waste the gas.
You know what? That much gas.
God can bless your gas. God can bless that your tank doesn't go all the way down. When I got in the ministry full time, after I quit my job and came and told my wife, hey, you know what? I quit my job. And we're going full time. And I remember that I came and spoke to my dad. And he said, man, okay, that's what you feel that God wants you. I said, yeah. And he said, okay, but we can't pay you, right? I said, no, I understand that. I said, God told me, and I believe God will supply, And I'll never forget that, they gave me a letter saying they were going to pay me so much, but they didn't have the money to pay me that. And I'll never forget when I went to the food stamp office. and to ask for help. And I thought, like oh man, God's gonna open the doors. They're gonna give me food stamps. We're gonna suffer from eating and all that.
To work.
And I remember that it was a guy, and he was looking and look at me, that, and then and he said, "What happened with your unemployment?" I already knew. I said, "Oh man," and I didn't want to explain to him the reason why I wasn't working no more. And then he asked me, "Are you? What is it? What is it they call it if they would hire you back? Employable or something like that?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Okay, the number's here, right?" I said, "Yeah." So he calls, right? And he's calling, and he's there, yeah, and I hear him. He said, "Sir, get off your lazy ass. Go back to work." Because they said that they want you back to work, that you're a good worker, and blah, 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 and this and that. They try to convince you not to quit. He said, and that dream that you have, we're not going to help you out with your food stamps. Go to work. I said, "Well, sir, I'm not going to go. Now that you're talking about that, I believe this is what God wants, and God will supply." And guess what? God did supply. And with time, God changed the mind of the people from the food stamp office, and I started getting food stamps. But you know what? We never went without food. And then we had a car. That car needed gas.
Yeah.
It wasn't the prices that are now. But still, at that time, the wages wasn't the way they are now either.
Yeah.
Right.
And we weren't getting no money at all.
Yeah.
And and you know what? And there were times I would get in my car and that needle was on E. And I'll tell, "Well, Lord, I need to get from A to B.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive. And if you want me to get there,
that's where your faith kick in right there.
And let me tell you what, God always supplied, never ran out of gas.
I believe it.
You know what? It was one time I gave a ride to a friend of mine. And I knew where he wanted to go because the address he told me, I knew what he was going to go and do. I remember he got on the car, and he looks like that, and he keeps on, he said, and he told me, "Man, Joe, I think I'm real high." I said, "Why?" "Because I see your needle of the E way on the other side of the E." I said, "No, you're looking straight." "Oh, okay." And I tell him, "Look, I'm not going to drop you off at that house because I don't know who's checking it out or not, and I don't want to think I'm involved." So I dropped him off 2 blocks before, and he said, "Look, Joe, I know God is doing something in your life. I'm not," and he told me right away, "I'm not ready for that. Don't start." I said, "But you know what?" He said, "Here." Boom. He gave me money. I knew that money was what he needed for his drugs. But the Lord used him to bless me. You see? And there's only one time I ran out of gas. And right here on the loop coming this way, it's because I decided to look at the needle and say, "Oh, man, I don't think I'm going to make it." Yep, sure enough. You see? But God blessed me.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I wasn't doing it to get paid.
Right.
Now, I think I deserve to get paid. But I wasn't doing it.
You should though. I mean,
but I think that's why it comes back to.
I think you should. You should.
But again, that's why it comes back to giving of our time and stuff has to come from the heart. Because if you do it and expecting to receive something and you don't receive it, now you're not doing it out of an unconditional love. You're doing it as a conditional love. I will love you if you do this for me. And that's not what God calls us to do.
Well, that's why there's a lot of hurt Christians. Because they give expecting something.
Well, that's their fault.
They'll hear preachers on the TV. They'll hear nowadays on the internet and all that promise.
Prosperity,
you know
preachers.
what?
Yep.
All this, and then they believe it. And even here, they come, you know what? I think God is gonna bless me.
But I wouldn't just blame them.
No, I know.
No, I'm just saying because I know Manny was bringing that point.
Man.
But to me, I think part of it, yes, it is partially, but also. You have to remember the rhetoric that has been around for the last many years.
Rhetoric, traditions, you want to call them.
But that's what I mean. So you have to understand, like people, when they've been ingrained in that, sometimes it's hard to break.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that.
And so it's having those conversations And that's the thing, like when we truly get in love with God and we open up our heart, I believe God will allow us to give more. I think some of the reasons we struggle with giving also is a lot of it having to do with our own faults because we put ourselves in situations. From a minority standpoint, and I think from an area of town sometimes we're in, we are not very financial literate. Like we don't understand our finances. We don't understand how to build a budget. We don't understand this. We think the moment we get extra money, let's go spend it somewhere. We don't think about reinvesting. We don't look at, doing all these things. Now, some people do. And I think that's one of the things, like for me, it has been very big is sometimes we have to teach people how to be more financially literate, how to understand their finances. Like, just because you can go get a loan doesn't mean you should get a loan.
Yeah.
Just because you can open a credit card doesn't mean you should
get one. Yeah.
You have to understand your finances. You have to understand all of that. And I think God gives us the wisdom to do that. And he allows us to start putting all that into work. But when we don't, then we get into situations where it's like, okay, do I give this offering I feel I'm supposed to give? Or do I save it for this? And most of the time, God didn't put us in that situation to make that decision. What happened was we spent that money on something else that we shouldn't have. And so now we're pulling from this part of it to say, do I cover a bill or do this?
Been there.
Yeah, because there's people that, that they don't want to give to the Lord because they have to pay their bills. And you're right. I don't know what it is about us Mexicans, and I think the blacks are almost like us too, and that we believe spend the money. I get a kick when I see the carnival come and all that.
Don't even give me
and started. You see all the Mexicans out there and and all that, and there's nothing wrong. Go enjoy yourself if you got it. But man, a lot of them, they're spending their rent money, they're spending their electricity money. I mean, they sell their food stamps to get money to go over there and all that.
Come on now.
And then they're Christians, what they say?
Oh, come on now.
God's going to bless me.
Come on now.
I remember there was this one sister once that she prayed for the Lord to bless her to give, to fix her roof, right? I think she needed about $2,000. And she used to come here to our church. And she said that one day she woke up, the money was in the bank, $2,000, and she didn't know how it got there, And she started checking it out because she didn't want to spend it, do anything with it and all that, and she making sure there wasn't a mistake or whatever. And they would tell her, no, it's your money, it's there. So she waited and all that. Then she spent the money. Once she knew she could, she went and spent it all. But she didn't spend it on the roof. No, she spent it because she had the money. And then, she started telling Lord, what happened to the money that you promised me? And one day she was talking to me and we're talking. She was telling me, I said, wait a minute, didn't you say you got the $2,000, what you said you needed for the roof? I said, yeah, that was the money. Oh, but I didn't know. The Lord didn't tell me it was for the roof. Come on. That's why it was put there. The Lord bless you. That's common sense. So now you expect God to come and do it again. There was a preacher that once said, he said, all Christians want to be millionaires. They want to have a lot of money. And he said, there's nothing wrong with Christians being successful and having money, being millionaires, billionaires, and all that. He said, but I have a question to all Christians. You know why God can sometimes give you all that money? Because
he trusts you with a little bit of money.
Trust you.
Yeah.
Can he trust you with the money? Can he trust you that you're going to bless him? Can he trust you that you said, oh Lord, if you give me so much, if you make $1 million, I'm going to give you whatever, Can he trust you of doing it?
Yeah.
He said, no. That's why sometimes God can't bless us.
Yeah.
So that's why some have more than others, because he can trust those people. He can trust those Christians with those to do what they got to do and give more and whatever, because in whatever church they're in, because they believe in that. And it's sad that there's a lot of us that we can't trust the Lord. Well, Lord, you know what? Not now. Well, when you know, when I get a lot of money, then you know, I'll bless you. Then I'll do this. Then I'll do that. You know, even with our time. Well, Lord, you know what? I don't have time right now because you know what? I'm so busy and this and that. You know what? And there's all kinds of excuses why we can't do a lot of things for the Lord. You know, and that's where responsibility comes in. You know, look. I don't know where some people think that we're federal funded, state funded, you know, city funded and all that. We don't get nobody from nobody. We've been blessed that this church has run, you know, because of our people. And, you know, it's been years and I don't get paid all my salary, you know. Since I've been a pastor in 35 years, if there's been 2 years that they've been able to pay my full salary for those years, that's a lot. You know, that's a lot. There's been years I don't get nothing. This year, I've gotten paid one time and only half. Because you know what? I believe that the bills should be paid first. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Saying our credit cards, me and my wife have gotten in debt to pay the bills of the church. We've had to use our credit cards to pay sometimes CPS, the water, because the money doesn't come in. Because we're struggling. You know. And I don't blame nobody. You know, I choose to be the pastor here. Or the senior pastor, because now you're the pastor. You know, I chose to be in the ministry here. In the good and the bad. You know. And I'm not gonna why people don't pay why they don't pay on time, or why they don't give, not pay, why they don't give their what they gotta give, or when they don't want to give, or they get mad at the church, or get mad at the pastor, I'm not gonna give, or they're hurt because they're going through something and all that, or they're struggling and say, you know what, I'm not going to give because all the money goes to the pastor. All the money doesn't go to me. You know, we're on a salary, you know, and I've been on the same salary for almost 28 years. No raise. And still can't get it. You know. But you know what? I've learned that because I try to maintain my relationship with God, I know God will supply. Mm-hmm. I know God will use. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that sometimes God has to use other people, you know, other people that don't even come here.
Yeah.
To bless.
Well, I wouldn't say it's sad, man. You know, that's actually a good thing. I would say it's a sad thing.
You know, and it's sad because where we work at, you know, God has put us, I always say that God has put us in the front of the war, you know, with the people that we deal with and all that. Because everybody has a calling, every church, you know. Like I said, I know I talk sometimes about the north side and all that, but they have their calling over there, you know. God called them to do what they have to do over there. They're reaching people over there that I might not be able to ever reach, you know, that I might not be able to sit down with them and, you know, give me the day of time. So God has to use somebody to reach them, because a sinner is a sinner, regardless what lifestyle. God put me here. Now we make it more family oriented. We're not all about, you know, drug addicts, gang members, you know, and all that, you know, but though we work with them because this is in our community and all that, you know, and you know, and there's been some that are grateful, and you know, and they've been blessed, you know, we get a couple that comes here, they're homeless, you know, they're homeless, and they're struggling, and you know the weird thing, they pay their tithes. They give an offering, you know, and that blows my mind, you know. The other day, Al came and told me, here, the homeless lady gave you her tithes. It wasn't a lot. But you know what? She gave it.
Yeah.
She could have said, oh, I'm struggling, I'm homeless, and whatever, and this and that, and kept that money for themselves.
Yep.
But they're grateful to God for whatever God is doing in their life. And that I know they don't live around here. That they moved to a better campsite or something, and they take the bus to come to church.
Yeah.
And they'll sit outside, in the heat and all that, and enjoy the service. Enjoy the service.
Yeah.
And why are we able to do that?
Wow.
Because of the very few people that help out.
I think so. To kind of start closing up, part of this was not, we didn't do this podcast to say, okay, we need you guys to start paying more money. That's by no means it.
No.
I think it's just a taboo conversation that doesn't always happen in church. I think, one, you should be supporting whatever church you're going to. If you're attending a church or whatever, support them. Again, debate on what the percentage is and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's really about you having that relationship with God and giving.
Right.
Giving even above, like, it's not just about the tithes and offering. It's also about your time, your effort, your support, prayer, all different types of things you should be giving to the church. So definitely encourage you guys to do that, and just keep giving to like, if you're part of this ministry, like, we appreciate your help, and if you're part of another ministry and you're listening to this, make sure you're giving and supporting there. And one of the things is, look for the need. Look where the need is. There's always a need. Even at our church, we have our needs and stuff like that, and we're looking at what our needs are and stuff. And so definitely encourage you guys to have those conversations. Encourage you guys to definitely get in love with God. Find God. Get in love with Him, and see where He leads you. I guess as we close out, any parting words on?
Yeah, and keep on listening. We're not trying to shake you down. We're not trying, to for you to give. If the Lord tells you to give to our ministry, fine. If the Lord doesn't, you know what? Keep on listening. Yeah, it's not about who's giving or not giving, because we don't even check that. And like Tony said, if you belong to another church and you're listening, be faithful in helping out that church.